Welcome to the Walking Leader podcast, episode number 252.
Hello, I'm your host, David Guerra, and I welcome you back to another episode of the Walking Leader podcast. The Walking Leader podcast is for you, current and future leaders, to help give you the tools to help you succeed as a leader in your organization as well as in your personal life. Now, the tools of the Walking Leader focus on getting you up and out from behind your desk and out to the front lines where those that you lead, that's where they are every day. Every day, they're in the trenches day in and day out. And attention all leaders, it is your responsibility to know how the battle is going, and there is no better way to know than to be out on the front lines where the bullets are flying. So get out there. And now, without delay, let's get this episode started. In this episode of the Walking Leader podcast, I present to you the first episode in the 2023 Self-Leadership Series on making the jump from amateur to professional. So let's break it all down as always. Let's define self-leadership is based on you, current and future leaders, taking the initiative and being proactive. A self-leader means you are intentionally influencing your thinking, feelings, and actions towards your objectives and goals, whether it be personal or professional or both. You must take that first step, the second step, the third step, and every subsequent step after that to achieve those goals. You got no choice. Now, let's break down. Let's just define amateur. One who engages in a pursuit, study, science, or sport as a practice rather than as a profession, or one lacking in experience and competence in an art or science. That's an amateur. Now, professional. Again, it sounds similar, but it's a little deeper. A professional is defined as one who has engaged, becomes proficient, and continues in a pursuit, study, science, or sport as a pastime, and has grown and moved beyond the level of amateur, meaning you moved on and it's time to move on. So let's talk about this. Back in this whole amateur to professional, back in 2013, I published my first book, The Walking Leader. I was so proud to have finally actually written my first book. I had been wanting to write a book for so long, many years. Right now, there is a book that I started in the 1990s that is almost complete. And it has been almost completed for, the past 3 decades. And however, it was never just the right time. It does not even have a title. I am fine if I actually never finish writing that book. But that's why when inspiration and motivation struck like a lightning bolt to write The Walking Leader, when it came, I grabbed it and bottled that lightning as fast as I could. And before I knew it, my first book was written. It was done. Then something magical happened. Lightning struck twice with my next book, Great to Follow. And it struck several more times with my historical fiction work set in West Berlin. And of course, just as quickly as the lightning storm came, the skies cleared. Now, deep down inside me, that had been stirring more stories to tell, more experiences to share, and more words to write. However, the inspiration and motivation were just not there. Sure, there were dark clouds and rumblings in the clouds, and I quickly took to my computer and fired up the word processing software, and quickly a few words would form on the screen. And in some rare air, there would actually be a paragraph or two, but nothing would last. It wouldn't last that long. Then this idea struck out of the blue. It was the embodiment of what I had been going through. I had the ideas and concepts running around in my mind. Thus, those ideas were running around aimlessly, kicking in chairs and knocking on tables. And you know what I mean. Then, it was with the help of an old story. It was a story back from World War II I had heard, and things started to fall into place. And the story, I found it, and it was written out, really nice and neatly written out. It's called June 6, In the Skies of France, a D-Day Message from Mom. And here's the story. This is coming from the Today in Connecticut History website. In the early morning hours of June 6, 1944, Private Robert C. Hillman became one of over 13,000 American paratroopers to leap out of a plane over Normandy as part of the D-Day invasion of occupied France. One of the largest offensives of World War II, a member of the legendary 101st Airborne Division. Private Hillman was a native of Manchester, Connecticut, who joined the Army after graduating high school in 1942. As he and his fellow paratroopers were flying in a C-47 plane over France, Hillman made a final inspection of his gear, including his parachute. As it happened, Hillman's parachute was manufactured, packed, and inspected by a Pioneer Parachute Company located in his hometown of Manchester. But the coincidence didn't end there. According to Wright Brown, a war correspondent for the NBC radio network, who was riding in the same plane as Hillman, Hillman turned to him and voiced his confidence in the safety of his parachute. When Brown asked Hillman why he was so sure, Hillman replied, "Because my mother works at the Pioneer Parachute Company, and her initials are on my chute." Like, wow, that's it. That is, I mean, again, how do you? That's excellent. So it's kind of scary too, kind of eerie, but it's interesting because, again, the son had confidence in his mom's work because the son knew the mom, right? And the mother in this story's only objective was to do the very best she could with every parachute she packed, never truly knowing that one day she would pack the parachute that would end up being the parachute that put her son safely on the ground in France. Now, hitting the ground on France is a whole different story at that time, but making it to the ground, that parachute worked. And how many parachutes had she packed before packing the one destined for her own child? Now, we may never know. What we do know is that she had packed every parachute in the same professional manner because she was not only saving the lives of her child, but the lives of countless of other children of all the other mothers that worked at the parachute packing facility or not, all the other moms of the children, So she made absolutely certain that cutting corners or slacking off was not what was going to save lives of those airmen, aviators, crew members, and soldiers when they needed their parachutes to open properly and set them back on the ground safely. So making the jump from amateur to professional was a no-brainer for the mom in this story. See, today, far too many individuals fail to see the need to make the leap and end up being tagged as amateurs and wonder why they're not getting anywhere. See, she got somewhere. She got her son to come home. See, she saw the long tail of it. She was able to see over the horizon. So moving from amateur mindset to a professional mindset is necessary. No, it's required if one wants to lead others. See, people will willfully follow someone who is a professional, who has a professional mindset, and most of all expects professionalism from others. Now, please do not for 1 second think that the previous statement is wrong. If you believe that I am wrong, then please share with me one solid long-term example of people willfully following an amateur that leads to great long-term success. I mean, they may be out there. I mean, no doubt there may be a few situations where amateurs gain followers for the long term, but I promise you this, those are the exceptions and not the rule. The rule is professionalism and being a professional and having that professional mindset. So, over the course of 2023, I will be sharing several episodes focusing on doing what it takes to help make that leap from amateur to professional. There will be 20 episodes in this year's series, and over the time, I will be sharing my observations, ideas, suggestions, and guidance as we make the move from an amateur mindset to a professional mindset. Now, please note, I did say we. We are moving towards professionalism together. And before we get started, that's right, I'm right there with you. There are a couple of things to remember as we begin this process. Number one, you are wanting to move from amateur to professional mindset because you want to. See, in every person's life, there are two things that happen. The time comes to be disciplined and work to get what you need or want. The other is just to keep going with the flow and with a lack of discipline. And do want to remind you, even a dead fish goes with the flow of the stream. So remember that. Now, if you're working to achieve success in your personal or professional life or both, if that's what you want, then when it comes to moving towards a mindset of a professional, a mindset that is rooted in discipline, hard work, and dedication, there has to be a focus so sharp that nothing and no one can derail your attempted progress. Now, many will try, but you have decided to make it happen, then you are ready and you will do what it takes to make it happen. Otherwise, why bother with the lip service? That's number one. Number two, you're moving into a professional mindset without regret. You have come to a point in your life that you now know that changing to evolve and become a better human being is the next logical step in your life. To be better, we must challenge ourselves, and no matter the outcome, there can be no regret. Regret is an emotion of children or those with a childish mindset. Now, getting caught if they get caught with their hand in the cookie jar, they have regret because they got caught. Now, as an adult, well, you're fully prepared to deal with the repercussions of getting caught with your hand in a cookie jar. You should be. I mean, you're the one doing it. You're the one putting your hand in there. You're the one who got caught. You shouldn't be doing it. But again, you're an adult. You need to be prepared to deal with the repercussions, the actions, the reactions. That was number 2. Number 3, you are not asking anyone for permission. You are the one seeing the need for change. Therefore, asking others for permission to change will be like asking a brick wall to step aside. It's not going to happen. Those you ask for permission will either say no or not give you any kind of response at all, and that's just like saying no. See, again, you don't need to ask anybody for permission. Any kind of change you want to make in your life has to come from within you and without the approval or disapproval of others. And trust me, you're going to get both. Once they start seeing what's going on, somebody will say, hey, I like what you're doing here, or what do you think you're doing? It'll happen. But again, you're the one that's ready to do this. It's you not asking for anyone's permission. You are doing this because you know you need to. Number 4, most importantly, you are making the change from amateur to professional because someone, more than likely a family member, said to you that you need to grow up. No. Never make any change because someone told you to make a change. Don't do that. The change they really want, and this is the truth, folks, the change they usually want, when they say, hey, it's time for you to grow up, they want you, well, to become someone that will suit their needs, which is usually to set them on top, to be above you, to be superior to you. Always go to them because, hey, they know better, or hey, they're the elder, hey, they've experienced this multiple times. It doesn't matter. If they're asking you to change, it's because they want you to change for them to suit their needs. See, typically they want you to change enough to put you in a position subservient to them. And I don't know what more I can say there. They want you beneath them. Thus I ask you, where's the growth? If they want you beneath them, where is the growth? Where's the progress? Where is the progress in all of that? So again, no, don't be making the change because someone told you need to grow up. No, you need to know when you're ready to do this and then act and then do that. So if you're ready, I know I'm ready. We together are going to go into this, and we will take the dive right into the deep end in the next episode. Then every 2 to 3 weeks thereafter, a new episode will drop. Now, this is designed to give you an opportunity to let it all sink in and get yourself ready for the next episode. This journey we're going to take together in 2023. So get ready, because by this time in 2023, this time next year, or at the end of 2023, we are all going to be in a different headspace, in a different mindset, and that, my fellow travelers, is a very, very good thing. So as walking leaders, we need to be prepared to walk that walk, and we're going to do it together because, hey, that's how we succeed. Well, that's it for this episode of the Walking Leader Podcast, episode 252. Do you have any questions, comments, or concerns on this episode or any past episode of the Walking Leader Podcast series? If you do, drop me an email, dave@daveguerra.com, or leave me a voice message at the Walking Leader hotline at 956-720-0060. Or reach out to me on Twitter at Dave Guerra, all one word. That's the @ symbol, Dave Guerra. I look forward to hearing from you. I also want to thank you for your time. I do appreciate you making it to this point of the episode. I am David Guerra, author of the books The Walking Leader and Great to Follow, and I invite you to subscribe to the Walking Leader podcast on Apple Podcast, Spotify, Spreaker, Stitcher. You can find all of those links on the daveguerra.com website. And lastly, as I always want to remind you and leave you with that, always go beyond the grind and go beyond the hustle, because that's the only way to be the walking leader and a leader that is truly great to follow. Listen, until next time, I thank you. Have a great day.
The Walking Leader podcast is a David Guerra presentation.